Buckle up for the Money Vehicle Movement Podcast. I'm Jedediah Collins, your host and driving instructor on this journey through speaking the language of money. Twists, turns, and avoiding those money potholes, we'll cover it all on our road trip to financial freedom. Engines ready? Then let's drive. Jimmy, appreciate the time. Appreciate you pouring into the students today. One question that really inspired me in our first conversation was around how you've been able to handle some defeat, handle some rejection, and that word no. It's a topic in a conversation that we often hear a lot, but I'd love your thoughts on just being a young hustler, man out to find his vision, go to achieve his dream. Why have you not let the word no derail you from where you're heading?
Jed,
That's a tough one to start.
A great
but
question to kick us off right
this is
there.
what I want to know. How do you keep going?
I would say there's two things that it comes back to. The first one is it's not necessarily, being scared of the word no, but it's more knowing how to pivot, knowing that nothing is always going to go as planned. It never does. In anything that we do, nothing goes as planned. But being able to pivot left to right and figuring out, hey, this might not work, but this will. Oh, this got me here. Well, where will that take me? And you got to be willing to try things. So I don't think the word no or being told no is the worst thing in the world. I just consider it another pivot point.
I think that word pivot is one that more and more entrepreneurs need to hear, understand. It's not a no, it's a not this. And what can I do next? What is the other option? How do I make it or create the yes? Pivot is such a fascinating term that as I got started in my journey, I kept hearing that word and not really understanding what it meant. And pivot doesn't mean you lost, doesn't mean you failed. Pivot just means you're finding a new way, a new direction. So I agree with you wholeheartedly as you go. And so tell us a little bit of kind of what path you're on and why you have a dream. This is something that you have been after for years. You are manifesting and creating. Tell us a little bit about what your dream is.
Yeah, well, you remember how we talked about pivoting? My dreams pivoted a little bit, but it is in the same roots of it all. It really comes down to two things for me: sports and investing. As a kid, I loved sports. I still love sports today. Diehard Charger fan, diehard Padre fan. And growing up, I wasn't very athletic, I guess we could say. So the first time I guess I got told no was when I realized, hey, maybe I'm not good enough to be in the starting lineup. And I realized that when I was in the third or fourth grade playing t-ball or little league. So, that was the first time I guess I had to make my first pivot, but I still knew I wanted to be around sports some way, somehow. So my dream shifted from being, I want to be a pro football player to I want to be a football GM. I want to, I'll learn the business side of the sport and I want to go that avenue with it. Now, I guess we could fast forward a little bit. My senior year of high school, I still had this vision that I was going to be the GM of a football team. And I stuck with that. And a lot of people called me crazy because obviously there's 32 positions of that job in this entire world. There's only 32 GMs. So it was definitely a long shot, you could say. So I didn't send my resume to the Chargers. That wasn't going to get me a job. What I did was I actually started emailing and calling the Chargers front office. And one random day, one random evening, a couple weeks after emailing and calling, I get a random phone call and I answer it. And lo and behold, it's Tom Telesco, the ex-general manager of the San Diego Chargers at the time. And I'm like, whoa, this guy really just called me. And, I thought I was set. He told me that come work for us, get an internship for us this summer. This is the path you're going to take to becoming a GM. And that same summer, I guess here's another one of those no moments, the Chargers moved to LA. So there goes my internship. So I go to a JC my first couple years, couldn't really be within sports. So at that point, I was kind of taking my foot off the gas, I guess you could say there. Transferred to San Diego State University, where at that point I got an internship for the baseball team's analytics department. And about 1 week into doing that, I got told no for another time because all sports
Mhm.
got canceled. COVID happened. So now, here's me. I still wanted to be a GM. That kind of got pushed aside. I said, I'll work in sports somehow. It's getting pushed aside. So now I'm left thinking, where is this going to lead to? Now, what I did at that point was really, I made my next pivot. And this is where I involved my passion for investing. Um, but I want to circle back to can you
No,
repeat
you're
your
telling
question a
us
little bit? I
about the
feel like I
dream,
kind of
brother.
got a
So
little
you
off
are
there.
now looking at how do I take the road I want to see? And you said I know where I wanted to land, but it isn't ever a straight and narrow road. And that's something that again, pivot, pivot, pivot. You continue down a path, but people don't realize your dream is going to be a back and forth kind of a switchback. So you're looking at how now you've landed into an opportunity in an area that um, combines that passion of staying connected to sports, connects this idea and this new passion around finances and money. And at the same time, it allows you to be you, which is being out and being a hustler and connecting with people.
Yeah, thank you for that. So exactly like you just said, that's kind of my path on the sports side. And now here we are. COVID happens. We're all, working from home, school from home. It's just weird. But also what happened during COVID was when my generation, for the first time in my life, started to get involved with investing and the stock market. Now, for me, stocks and investing wasn't very foreign. My dad taught me how the market worked when I was in middle
And what
school.
was that
So
lesson? Your
growing
dad
up,
teaches you what? Give me, and
anything
you
I
don't need to
did
go
from
into detail, but what was your interpretation of how the market
yeah,
worked?
honestly, I think it's the best interpretation most people should have. And it was a very childlike perspective of
Mm.
what company sells a lot of product. Here's a better example. Kevin Hart says this a lot. He said when he wanted to teach his kids about investing, he told them, what do you use every day? Well, dad, I use toothpaste every day. Cool. Let's invest in the companies that make you that toothpaste. For me, my dad was buying at the time Sprint, the phone services. He was buying their stock because we had Sprint as a service. And, obviously that's
There's
not
a
the best
lesson there
investment there.
too.
uh, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot more to this than people think. My dad, he knew what the market was, but he doesn't know what a market cap was. He doesn't know, a lot of the things that can make a stock price this high or this low and whatnot. So, again, my perspective on it all was really childlike. Hey, what do I use? What do I do? I played video games. Who makes Madden? EA. Can you invest in EA? Or, I ordered my first item on Amazon for the first time ever. And I'm like, this worked really well. Can you invest in Amazon? So just always forward thinking. I believe that's
And
probably
so
the
as you
best mindset
see,
you can have with the
COVID
market.
came, went, and I'll be the first to say, man, pivot, pivot, pivot. When COVID hit me, it took part of my business away. So I look at having to continue down a path even when you are faced with those feats. But now you've stumbled into a new world. We look at how the world continues to evolve. College sports over the last 3 years has transcended what I would imagine anyone could have seen. And you look at yourself and you say, well, I can connect in sports, I can connect in finance, and I can connect in that managerial kind of aspect to it. So who do you see today as who you are trying to serve?
You know, Personally, I see, I'm not going to be able to change the world, Jed. I can't, I'm not going to be able to help every single person. So why not focus on one group of people, like you said. And for me, that group of people that I want to work with is athletes, because I feel like this is such a, as you know, financial literacy and professional athletes don't tend to go hand in hand together. It's not really educated topic there. So when players make it to the league, they don't really know necessarily what to do with these millions of dollars. So for me, I'm starting from the very beginning by educating student athletes on the basics of financial literacy, what the stock market is, what the do's and don'ts, the pros and cons, the very basics of it all, what accounts you should have. That way, when they make it to the league, it's no longer foreign. We're not going to be able to convince somebody with millions of dollars to start investing. But now this person's been educated on financial literacy for 3-4 years before entering the league. Investing your money is a no-brainer. Getting your money growing is now a common
I love
knowledge,
that.
not a
And that
foreign
is
topic, I guess you could
exactly
say.
what obviously we're trying to do at Money Vehicles, take this foreign language, translate it into terms that you understand and actions that you go and take. And what is really neat is seeing this same story, but a new chapter develop. We've seen professional athletes struggle financially for a long time. Now we're starting to see college athletes who became professionals overnight struggle with the same issues. And while I do see and know that investing is important and a priority, I also need to better understand how the entire picture works and how to kind of fit in every piece of a financial plan along with that. And that's what I love talking to NFL players today, because they are so much more educated, so much more further down the road than we were a decade ago. But you also have to guard them and guide them a little bit on not rushing into things. Like you said, you had an education early on. Your father was teaching you what the market looked like, felt like, and acted like. We need to be able to see the market is not a game. And something we've talked about is how a lot of people, your generation, were introduced to the game aspect of investing and of the market. I would love for you to talk a little bit about kind of how that introduction came to you, um, and what you see people, peers of yours, friends from, back when you were students, what their introduction to this whole concept of money is. We're going to get back to the athlete, but just more students in general. How do you think they were introduced to the money concepts?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Everyone in my generation was introduced to it. They look at it like the same way they look at the casino. They look at
Hmm.
it like gambling. What stock should we bet on? At Wall
Yeah,
Street bets. It's backwards a little bit. Now
sure. Risk.
there is gambling in the market, as you all know, with day trading. By there's a lot of there's ways you can go about it that way, but there's also the investing side of the market and the ways that you can really maximize this. I call it a tool because the market is a tool. And when you use it the right way, it is a great thing. For instance, a knife can chop up steak, it can help cut you up like vegetables. It can be used in a kitchen,
Yeah.
but can also be used to kill someone. So, it depends on how you use this tool. And personally, I feel like my generation was taught the wrong way to use the tool. But the good news is about it, Jed, is it put the tool in a lot of people's hands. And now I want to make it my job to show them the proper way of using this tool. I want to keep it fun and exciting. And that's why my firm, we do focus on the future when it comes to our investments, but we're prudent investors first. That's why I go with the whole slogan of, prudent investing
And
with a
what is
modern
part of
approach.
that modern approach? As you look at NIL athletes today, their opportunity, they're getting money at a younger age. I mean, we are now at least comfortable with the college athletics idea, but the reality is it's coming to a high school near you. We're going to see more and more high school students become NIL athletes here in the next year or two. It is the truth. San Diego young soccer girl at age 12, now 13, getting the youngest NIL deal. It's happening. So that modern aspect of it, how do you frame this old conversation into that new modern lane?
Yeah, yeah, and that's where it comes back to
There you
using
go.
what got my generation excited. The investing side of it, where we are gonna buy, we're invested in the
Mm,
future. AI, like Google, Nvidia, Microsoft, people want a piece of that. Consumer discretionaries. People are talking about sports gambling and cannabis legalizing, and everybody's talking about streaming with Netflix. Like all of this stuff is being used by everyone, and we see the direction it's going, so why not own a piece of it? We don't need to invest in our buddy's, restaurant that he's opening or the new nightclub or whatever that may
yeah.
be. When we can invest in Apple, you can have a little piece of every iPhone sale. Why recreate the wheel? The wheel is there for us.
One of the
Let's
greatest
just keep
inventions
driving
ever,
it.
the wheel, man. And that's the funny thing is like the wheel is like compound interest. It's not as exciting, it's not as fun, it's not as exhilarating, but it works. And if you know and let the wheel work for you, it is going to go to work for you. So go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, and I just want to hop in real quick. The investment side of it all is, that's great and that's good. But I think the biggest advantage that people need to realize is, just like we said, the wheel is boring, but the wheel mixed with the amount of time that these people have getting started this early in their at the high school level, being able to put money away in the market. Like the reason Warren Buffett is where Warren Buffett is because he's almost 100 years old, or is he 100 years at this point? Like he's had his money in the market for so long. So you guys, I'm talking to the athletes and really anyone that's younger and getting invested. You getting invested at an early age, man, it's such an advantage than getting started later. Now, let alone the athletes that come into a bulk of money in the very beginning, you should be set for life. But instead, we're hearing stories like, I don't know if you saw what happened with Adrian Peterson recently, who has a $5 million loan that's out that he owes. It's crazy. And he made over $100 million in his career.
All day
So,
AP?
how in the world does that happen? The
Ah,
saddest thing, it is so sad. I listened to Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharp on their podcast. They talked about it for like 30, 40 minutes the other day. He, man, he had a birthday party in his career, early in
yeah.
his career, I guess. And this is me quoting another quote, but he had a birthday party where he paid for everybody first class travel to come, paid for everyone's first class hotels to stay, assuming the cost of the food, the
Mm.
party. It was a couple $1 million
You're
party.
never gonna you're
You,
gonna run out doing that.
it's
Yeah.
And who are we doing it for at that point? Who are we doing it for? We're doing it for other people. And at the end of the day, now 10 years later, AP's out
Yeah.
of the league. Where are those people? You know what I mean? It's just a
And I
little bit
think that's
backwards,
an
Jed. That's
important
honestly the
lesson
way I see
for
it.
NIL athletes to hear and understand. Yes, live in the moment. Yes, the present is a gift. And as you look at it, treat it as such. You are being given an opportunity, one, to have a financial head start, but two, have a business start. You see yourself now as more than just somebody on a field or a court. We were not told that until we were transitioning out. And so, as an NIL athlete today, if you can look around you and not see the people, the friends that you are buying, but the people and the friends that are going to help pay you down the road, meaning your network, meaning the people who are going to help you get a job, get an investment, get an opportunity in 5 to 10 years, as opposed to the ones who are going to come and do bottle service with you for a fun night that, again, many don't remember, but will never forget. Looking at that idea, you really have to start to challenge this notion of who you are today. Today, you are an NIL athlete, but what does that mean? That means you have a little bit of a head start. That means you have a stage and a platform, and it means you have a brand and identity that stays with you everywhere you go. I love when people start talking about what platform they want to go big on. I want to be an Instagrammer. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a TikToker. When you realize all of those platforms can change, pivot, and establish its own thing without you in a moment, you start to really understand you have to build that brand outside of those tools and really start to look at where you can go beyond just a platform by building yourself as the brand. That brand stays with you throughout your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's spot on. That's spot on.
Let's
Now,
flip it. Let's
I
let's
kind of
set
want
the
to
stage.
ask you
Let's
a quick
go.
question. Let, yeah, let's flip a little bit. So, where did where did your knowledge for finance come from? Like, where did was it early on in your career? Did it come later? Like, where did the Jed financial
Man,
literacy, when did
my
that
first
happen?
paycheck from the NFL, I got, and I love to tell the story. I bought an engagement ring with. 15 years later, she's still around. It was a good decision, good investment, poor financial habit. So my journey began from the moment that that money went out my account. Came in, went out pretty much the same day. And I woke up that night in sweats, cramps, freaking out, thinking, I'm going to be one of those guys. I'm going to be a statistic. I got some money from the NFL. It's all gone. And from that day forward, I really challenged myself to start speaking this language. I was an accounting degree, a business major in college. Nobody, not one class, sat me down and said, the Collins family is going to get $100,000. Here's what they should go do with it. And because I didn't get that class, I became one of the statistics. And so my financial literacy began with that check and began with me telling myself and manifesting to myself. The broke documentary came out and said 70+% of athletes go broke within 5 years. How do I become a 30 percenter? I'm Jedediah Collins. I'm a no name, undrafted, never going to be a big $1 million mega guy. How do I fit into that 30%? I got to start controlling what I do control. And that part was education, and then part was empowerment and really taking my finances to the next level. So my journey began about right after my rookie year in the
Wow.
NFL. And then each offseason, I would study for and take my certification in financial planning.
That's amazing. That is so cool. And honestly, I bet you one of the biggest things you learned wasn't, what the next big investment was or what this is, just living within your means, learning to live on a budget and put money away and running the numbers. That's what's so cool about finance, Jed, is when you run these projections, when you run these numbers, it's like, oh, if I keep doing this and then run out of money, I stop making money in the league
Yeah.
here, I'm gonna have no more money in approximately 5 years. It's very cut and dry. Like it's not like it's not rocket science. So when we lay it out in a layman's term way, I think it makes it a lot more easy to understand and easy to grasp. And that's probably I'm assuming here,
It
but I'm assuming
was
that's kind of one of the things
it's
that you
control
grasp
the
on.
controllables. Before we even get to investing, and this is what I tell guys a lot is what is that number? What is a comfortable lifestyle number that you can have deposited into your bank account the first of every month, just like a normal paycheck? You make an exorbitant amount of money as a 24-year-old, but don't live like that. Live like the lifestyle you want to maintain for the next 30 years, not the next 30 days. And so I really challenged myself of what that number was. And, it started out with about $5,200. $5,200 a month. I could pay rent. I could do all the things. I can live on that amount, even though I was making more. And by the time I started to realize that number was the most important number in any financial plan, I know guys who are making millions, but they're also spending about a $500,000 a year on things. And that's not even with the car or the house or the big purchase ticket items. And so you look at $500,000, great, you made 8 million bucks in your career. That's about 16 years. That's not long enough. Now you're the statistic at 44 going broke and looking back at the game for what it took. And so anytime I get to stand on a stage and talk to NFL guys, my message is simple. This game is going to take from you. You better make damn sure you take from it. Because as we know, as I know firsthand, the body is going to hurt. You're going to have the stories of what it took from you. If you can't look at your bank account, your family, your house, your surroundings, your network, and look at what the game gave you, then you did not achieve the NFL dream. And the reality is, everybody talks about the NFL dream, but in truth, many guys realize an NFL nightmare when their game is done, the applause have stopped, and all those people that you were paying for are gone. You realize how much the game has taken and how desperate and alone you are. And so that's my mission and that's my message is How do we empower people to speak this language and to really just look at, I control one thing, that's the number I choose to spend each month. We'll get to investing, we'll get to the fun, crazy stuff next, but that's where it starts.
Absolutely. And it's you said it there. It's like this game takes so much from the players. Like it's their bodies, their brain, your body, your brain, like all of that is blood, sweat, and tears. That's really what it is going on the field for me, as a fan, for us, for all the fans out there. So now seeing players after a few years exit the league and not have anything essentially to show for it, it isn't fair. And that's where it's like, okay, something needs to be changed, because if you're going to be risking your body, people look at like the NFL career starting at age 24, or age 21 to age 30.
Yeah.
You've been putting your
And if
body
you
on the
make
line
it to
since you were 10
30,
years old in
whew,
Pop Warner. So
yeah.
exactly, and that's a blessing right there. Exactly right. Exactly right. So you're putting your body on the line, your brain on the line. You've been doing that since you were a kid, the hours, everything you've been doing into this. And now you have nothing to show for it after 5 years of being out of the league. That's not fair. That's not logical. And the fact that this hasn't been made a bigger topic, a bigger issue, the fact that when I was researching this before starting my career here, you were one of the
Wow.
only videos that I saw online talking about it. That's what was crazy to me.
Mhm.
That you couldn't find much of it. Luckily now with the NIL, I think it is starting to shift, and I'm hoping that I can be that lead for charge with this shift and just, educate from the ground up. And we're not going to be able to look, Jed, I'm a guy in a suit. I go up to a 24-year-old, 23-year-old who just got a big
Yeah.
contract. Jimmy, get lost. You're not going to help me. You're not going to tell me what to do. I did this. I don't need you to tell me what to do. So that's why, okay, I won't be able to change that person or help that person. But if I can start in the very beginning when this kid's entering college, help them learn about budgeting, living within their means, what a stock is, learn to have a fun mindset when it comes to that. What the benefits of a tax-free growth in a Roth IRA really means. Like just get the idea, show him how valuable $5,000 starting today going into a market is. That's how we're going to really change the landscape of things, not by trying to convince people who already made it. So I see the NIL really as an
It's a
opportunity to educate,
education,
honestly.
and again, it's nationwide. Now there are thousands of professional athletes and people trying to see the target and take advantage of them too. So if you were to look at the foundations, Jimmy, if I came to you, I'm 19, I just got my first $10,000 NIL deal. Where do I go? What's my guidance? What would you tell me?
So you're saying you just got your first $10,000 deal. Let's learn. Let's learn about what you want in life. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? What are we after? What's your situation like? Does you need this money right now? Or were you in a position where we can let it grow for the next few years? It's all dependent on that person, but ultimately I see the $10,000 coming in as a way to at least open the door to the conversations. We don't necessarily need to come up with the answer right away, but the fact that you're already thinking about this at age 18, you're already
Yep,
light years ahead of the
100%.
players 10 years ago. And I'm
And
sure you can attest to that
that
right
is what
there.
is really neat is seeing
Yeah.
millionaires enter the NFL. Even the league, the NFL Players Association, they're waking up and realizing and going, these guys are different. They're asking different questions. They're interested in different things. They have LLCs. They have brands. They have social media people following them around and documenting their entire worlds. So as we do see this modern day athlete, what I've been charging and hoping for the last decade, and we're seeing come to fruition, is the next wave of wealth is athletes. How do you become a billionaire? The Golden State Warriors changed the mindset of the NBA. They were near Silicon Valley. They became investors, and a couple of them will become billionaires. Not on the court, obviously helps being on the court, but off the court. Michael Jordan, not many people can duplicate what he did. But yeah, you look at Draymond Green. Should that guy eventually become a billionaire? No. Will he? Probably, because he was surrounding himself with the right people. And it is truly amazing to see this shift, this polarization. And financial literacy must become cool. it has to be something we talked about. I'd love for you to say, speak on is the struggle of watching the draft, the struggle of watching the rookie walk on stage and assume they've made it by showing people what they have. Go and you can finish that story.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, last year's draft, the one thing I noticed, and I would want all you guys to go check the first 10 picks. I stopped looking after that point, but the first 10 picks, they all walked out wearing a giant chain on their neck, a custom chain. Now, why
Yeah.
is that the way that we show we made it? You know what I mean? Chad Ochocinco talks about it. He says, dude, I bought fake chains. What am I trying to show off? This girl's, I want to go to a club with a chain on. I don't need to do that. The girl's going to look me up and see what's in my net worth. She knows I'm a football player. Like, who are we trying to show off to? And really, ultimately, what I want people to realize is the chain is great. I just want you to know what you're giving up for it. And $10,000 invested in the market today, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars later with the power of compounding interest. So I want you to know that you're essentially giving up a few hundred thousand, almost $500,000 by buying this chain today. That's all. I'm not saying don't do it, but know both sides of it all and make sure when you're doing it, it makes sense for your situation. But I can almost assure you, I don't know everyone that walked across that stage, but I'm sure not all of them,
None
it
of
made
them,
sense
man. I
to
mean,
own that chain.
you don't know how long you're in this business yet. You've got 1 year guaranteed. That's it. I mean, first round picks. I've been at training camps where former first round picks came
Yeah.
back and are begging for jobs. And you look at the chain and you look at the target it puts on you. I got money. Yeah, I'm in a club with a chain. That's a shiny attention grabber from both the right and the wrong people. And then you go into insurance, and we're not going to talk about all that. But yeah, and then you got to start talking about taking care of those assets and those things that you put your money into. But I could not agree more, man. I heard a statistic or a story the other day about 1,000 millionaires were interviewed, and the vast majority of them drove like Nissan cars or Honda cars. And you're like, oh, well, who then is
Yeah.
driving all the Lamborghinis and all the Porsches and all the things? And you realize those aren't the millionaires. Those aren't the people who have true wealth. They're the people who are trying to tell a story that is not true. Once the story becomes true, you no longer have to tell it, it tells itself. And that's a big misunderstanding. Walk into an NFL parking lot and you'll see the veteran guys, they have a little bit nicer cars. The young guys, they have the nicest cars. That's the wrong deal.
Oh man, it's so wrong. And
For
it
sure.
comes to the side of it's part of American society. We're taught what do we, when
Yeah.
somebody buys a car, what do? We congratulate them. They just put themselves in a debt and we're congratulating a debt.
Nobody high
But if
fives
somebody
you.
invests in a Roth IRA, no one talks about it. No one high fives you. But hey, you put yourself in $30,000 car debt. Good job. Like it's so backwards, and that's where like, I love what you're doing. Starting from the ground. I thought I was starting at the ground level with college and NIL, and you told me you're taking it a step further. Like I end almost every one of my meetings when I meet with my clients saying, "Isn't it crazy that this isn't taught in high school? That this is the first time you're seeing this information. It took me 20, 30 minutes to go over it with you. I feel like I opened a third eye for you. Yet we have to learn the Pythagorean theorem in high school. We don't learn about compounding interest. Like where's the logic there? So what you're doing is beyond amazing. And I know the butterfly effect of what you're doing
Brother,
is
I hope
definitely going to
so.
benefit a
Last
lot of
thing I'm
people
going
in
to
the
ask
future.
you is about the NCAA video game. Give me some thoughts on that coming back, how you think that's going to change. Being the gamer, self proclaimed gamer, and knowing that everybody under 20 plays some kind of video game, where do you see this coming back into our worlds?
I am definitely not a self-proclaimed gamer. But I know I'm not very good at the game, but I do love it. I just like the fact that I was able to play
Man,
Madden and play
not
with
many
Philip
people
Rivers,
claim
my
Philip
favorite
Rivers
person
is
right
their
there.
favorite. So
So,
kudos to you. Way to be a true Charger.
oh, man, Philip Rivers is that guy. He taught me. I want to say one thing that he taught me. It's one of my favorite quotes that keeps me going every day. and it's essentially it's Nunc Cepi. And what that
No.
means, yeah, Nunc Cepi. Have you ever heard that before? It's Latin for now I begin or endless beginnings. And I guess on the topic of our how many times have you been told no? It's kind of I guess we'll go it's you have endless beginnings. So you're a football player. You go out on the field, you throw a touchdown. Well, begin again because you can't stop there. So then you go back on the field, you throw another touchdown. Well, begin again, and it leads for endless progression. You go out there and you throw an interception. You can't be down on yourself. Short mind, begin again, and just endless beginnings will lead to endless progression. So Philip Rivers to me is a little bit more than a quarterback. He definitely taught me that, and I'll stick with me for the rest of my life. And I
I
hopefully
love it.
some other listeners get to
Jimmy,
take that with them.
let me ask you the final three questions. Number one, best thing you've ever spent money on?
Best thing I ever spent money on. I don't
That's
think
what
I've
I'm trying
ever
to
been
do.
asked that question right there. Hmm. I guess I can take it with two ways. Yeah, I could be the boring investor side of person, I guess, and say, oh, when I bought my first share of actually one of my biggest
All
shares that
right.
was a winner was this company right here, Celsius. So
Nice
I could say it
plug.
was when I bought
I
shares of
like the
Celsius,
plug,
but
though.
I'll go with a
What?
more,
Go ahead.
realistic answer.
Where's the
They
give
better
me
give
a
me my
free queso.
sponsorship. Where's our free cases? At least one, at least one. But no, honestly,
Okay.
I'm a big food person, so I love good food, and I'm the type of person that will go to a sushi dinner, spend
Yep.
$200, and enjoy one of the best meals of my life. I that's my way
That's
of
brother,
spending my
and
money. I love
so many
spending on
people
food
like
there.
hesitate, take that question, and go, I got man, a good sushi dinner with some of the people you love. That's what money is for. Like that's the dream. I love that response. All right, flip the script then.
Yeah,
What's something that you bought that you would never buy again?
something I bought and would never
It's not
buy
that jacket.
again.
You look good in the jacket.
This thing. Hey, I appreciate that.
Or
What was
just some,
something I bought that wouldn't buy
yeah,
again?
some of you
That's another
you
question.
did you felt like maybe
Let
turned out to be a waste of money.
I guess I could say when I installed that subwoofer in the back of my car when I was 17 years old and put the mufflers on the back of it and did all that stuff because I don't even have that car anymore. And then obviously I realized after a couple years of my bass shaking, I hate this. And the mufflers blow every time I press the gas. It's going.
There is
It's like maybe this isn't that
That's a
cool.
great
So
answer.
I guess
That's a
I could go
story
with that one
because
right
there
there.
is, man. Everybody who gets one of those, you go, clock's ticking because that's gonna get old. Like it's tight, it's cool, man. That's great for you right now, but long car ride, that's awful. Uh,
Especially me.
no,
I'm making the
yeah,
trek
that's
from LA to
dumb.
San
All right,
Diego. I have
last
to get rid of
question,
that
brother.
car
You're standing
very
in front of a
quick.
room full of 100 high school students. Oh, actually, before I say that, what was Philip Rivers' quote again? Nuke Cheppy. I got to write that down.
Nunc Cepi. Let me
Nuke.
spell it for you. NUNCCOEPI. If you look up a picture of Philip Rivers, I can almost
Huh.
guarantee you'll
I
see him
love
wearing
it.
a hat that says Nunc
So,
Cepi on it.
one, that might be the answer, but if you're standing in front of a room full of 100 high school students today, what's your message to them if they remember one thing about Jimmy?
Honestly, I would say that is my answer right there. I genuinely love that quote because it allowed me to get to where I am today. It's for instance, we didn't go into my entire story, but I ended up starting a YouTube channel. And then I ended up, beginning again. And I moved out to Santa Monica and beginning again. And I got this role for Gerber Kawasaki, where we're working with an amazing team here. And I begun again. And now we're building out this division where we work closely with athletes in the NIL and in the pro level. And I'm going to begin again and begin again and begin again until really everyone knows who Gerber Kawasaki is and Jimmy
Jimmy
Bisharat, the
Bisharat,
athlete
I know who
advisor.
you are, brother. Nuke Cheppy. Gonna be part of my vocabulary now.
Nunchepi.
Appreciate your time. Appreciate you investing in the money vehicle movement and our students.
But
Oh,
Before I
my.
let you go, Jed, I told you I'm a big Charger fan, so I'm gonna have to ask you one question. I know you played with an, I guess you could say, an ex-Charger legend, Mr. Drew Brees. I would love to hear one
Well,
story
I
or
wouldn't
one
say he's an
encounter that you had with Drew
ex-Charger. He
Brees.
is a former Charger, and he is definitely a legend. Man, I'm a big journaler, so I wrote a lot of stories and things and notes about Drew. Being around greatness, you try to steal as much as you can from it. But I remember very vividly watching him walk away from his locker one day, and then he turns around, he walks back, and he kind of opens the little cupboard, and on the back of the cupboard there was a piece of paper taped in there, and he looked at it, he said something to himself, and he walked out. And so out of practice, I asked him, I said, man, what was that in there? And it was the wooden pyramid of success. And I remember that vividly because he was heading out to practice and felt called to go back and check something. And it was the pyramid of success, and it was John Wood, and but it was the fact that this guy is learning every day. That page, that paper, that changed every season. I'm sure it changed every couple of days or weeks, but it was so neat for me to take a step back and go, this Hall of Famer is so conscious, so aware, and so in need of starting anew every day and improving every day, that he took it and he went back to his locker just to get a nugget to take out to practice and to keep that seed in his brain. And it was such a small thing, but it was such something that stuck with me, and it just showed you he is a walking habit. He is everything he does is for a process, for a purpose, and for a reason. And so, yeah, we in the next session we can go deeper on Drew and the amazing things that he taught me. But being a continuous learner and
Man.
important game, important this, important that, never letting that come in between him and learning, that stuck with me.
Man, I'm glad I asked that question, and I'm looking forward to the
Appreciate the
next time we
time
get to do this,
and
Jed. This was
enjoy the
great.
day.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you for investing in your greatest asset. If you want to keep learning how to drive your money vehicle, make sure to subscribe to the Money Vehicle Movement podcast. Until our next pit stop together, stop working for money and start making money work for you.